He is now a Hall of Famer, inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame, class of 2022. He is Christopher Mad Dog Russo. Mad Dog, how are you today?
Good morning, Daniel. How are you today, pal? Okay?
I'm good. I'm fired up. Let me start on the football first, then we'll talk some baseball. How does football help themselves? Protecting the quarterback without maybe overprotecting him.
Yeah, it's a fine line. Jerome Bogard did a terrible job because, let's face it, there was a roughing the a passer penalty in the Buffalo-Baltimore game on Buffalo's last drive. He was the official there. That was a terrible call that helped the Bills kick that game-winning field goal. And there's no way under any circumstances you can go along with the call last night, Sunday afternoon with Grady Jarrett. And then last night's ridiculous. I mean, how in the world? Now, the Chiefs won. The other two teams lost. The Chiefs won, so you're going to get over it. And plus, the Raiders had a weird penalty, which set up the Chiefs on that touchdown in the fourth quarter on that hold off the field goal attempt. So, I mean, maybe it evened out, but it's ridiculous, Dan. I mean, what did you want Chris Jones to do? I mean, I don't understand. So I understand you got to protect the quarterbacks. Nobody wants to see Skylar Thompson play for Miami. Nobody wants to see these backups around the league. I get that. And look at Carolina. They're unwatchable, no quarterback. You need the quarterbacks, but there's a very fine line there where protection overcomes integrity. You got to let the defensive linemen, part of the game is them getting hit a little bit. Yeah. And if they get hurt, they get hurt. And in all three sequences in the last 2 weeks, the referee made a terrible call. And last night's a bad call. You can't support it. It's a terrible call. Plus it changed because that was a turnover, for crying out loud. So the roughing the quarterback penalties have been it's an early season dilemma for the league. Like the flags were with the defensive holding there. They had that a couple of years ago. Every single play was a defensive hold. It will sort of sort itself out, but it's been a major problem. And I understand the quarterback's the most important. Without the quarterback, the game stink. I get that. But you have to let the defensive guys play the game a little bit.
I also wondered, with the NBA, we knew there was favoritism. Every time Jordan went down the lane, it felt like, unless it's against the Pistons, somebody's going to get called for a foul. It became business for the NBA. Baseball, certain pitchers got certain calls, hitters got certain calls. We don't normally talk about favoritism in the NFL. Are there certain quarterbacks, certain players who are going to get certain calls? How much does favoritism play a role in the NFL?
Well, Josh Allen and Brady, I think your argument is well intended. I'm not sure if Derek Carr gets that benefit of the doubt. Brady gets the benefit of the doubt. And you touch Brady, it's a penalty. He's 45 years of age, 7 Super Bowls. He's he's the greatest player of all time. So if he gets pounded, you're going to be in a situation where, they're going to look very carefully at that. So yes, I agree on Brady. Allen, same scenario. I think there's something to that. Bogart deserves to write an apology to both the Ravens and the Falcons for his horrendous officiating in those scenarios. As far as Jeffers is a good official. I mean, he tried to explain it, body weight and all that nonsense, despite the fact that Jones put his arm down. I think there's always that favoritism angle, but it's hard to believe, Dan, that Derek Carr is going to get the benefit of the doubt because of what he has done in the league compared to Brady. So I think it works in both scenarios. The first two, I'm not sure it works last night. And again, I thought that was a pretty dubious call on the field goal, on the hold, which set up the Chiefs on that last touchdown. So maybe that kind of evens out. And Kansas City won the game anyway, despite the Jones penalty. The other two, the Falcons would have had the ball. I mean, the Bills would have been in third down territory at midfield if not for that roughing the passer. So those two were more help decide the outcome of the game. And that's when you get in trouble. Those penalties it's 15 yards. And those are big penalties. And Aikman made a good point last night, Dan. Although it would take forever and you'd have it checked every time, maybe you go to instant replay and roughing the passer. Maybe you do that.
Yeah, I asked Eli about that last hour, and he said, he'd be in favor of that. We're talking to Chris Mad Dog Russo. You got baseball, Phillies, Braves, Mariners, Astros, Guardians, Yankees, Padres, Dodgers. Before we get to that, the way the Mets season ended, you win 101 games, felt like, and the New York media, the New York market, it was like they were just begging for the Mets to be, worthy of all of this. what happens in the offseason to the Mets with this
Well,
owner?
they have an owner who's going to spend a fortune. So I don't know. The idea that this is a one and done thing for the Mets, I don't buy it. Would you pay DeGrom $45 million a year? He'll probably do it. He's got the highest payroll in the league. I think the first thing I talk about with the Mets are going to try to convince you now, front office wise, between now and spring training that, hey, had a bad couple of days, but we won 101 games, a great year. You don't win 101 games. The San Francisco Giants in 2000 won 100 ball games and got murdered by the Mets in the first round, and Bobby Jones threw a one-hitter at him. Nobody in game 4, nobody in America remembers the Giants for winning 100 games. All they ever got mocked for is that Bobby Jones threw a one-hitter at him. The Mets got one hit on Sunday night, and they couldn't win a game in Atlanta. They did not play well in September. And then they let the Padres walk in there and win 2 out of 3. And Buck did a bad job with the rotation. DeGrom should have gone game 1, not Scherzer. Why Diaz is not in there in the top of the 8th inning on Sunday, starting the inning instead of Michael Gibbons. The game was probably over anyway, but the Padres got 2 extra runs. The Mets had a horrific finish to the year. They're a now team. And, I was thinking about this the other day, Dan. Scherzer's a mercenary. He goes to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
His boos, you've been at that stadium forever, New York. The booing that he got on Friday night is I can't think of a New York athlete who got booed as badly as he did in that sequence. Why? He pitched 145 innings. That's it. He won 11 games. He killed him in Atlanta, and then he killed him in game 1. Scherzer's going to get destroyed like that. And doesn't have any Met credibility because he didn't do anything for the Mets. DeGrom won a Cy Young and a Rookie of the Year, won a pennant. He's going to get the benefit of the doubt. This is an awful finish. Plus, it was a bad look for the Mets with the Joe Musgrove thing, late Sunday.
And you had Brian Kinney on, who is a host on
nuts.
MLB, and he called him out and said that Musgrove was cheating.
Yeah, he did. And he did it yesterday with me.
Yeah.
Hey, here's the thing I would say. If you're going to do that, if you're Buck, why don't you do it in the second inning? He did it in the top of the 7th inning, bottom of the 7th, down 4-0. The series was already gone. Where was he? Where was he in the second inning? And number 2, if you do that, then you better be right. If you are going to call out a pitcher who is a good pitcher, he's got a good ERA, just on a $100 million contract, a good reputation. If you're going to call him out in that situation, you must be right. And Buck was wrong based on what the umpires did. So from that perspective, I lost a lot of the Mets came across as a rinky-dink organization there. And I don't care what anybody tells you, Dan, you're the great sports guy. You can't win 101 games below the division because you can't win a game in Atlanta the last week of the year and then get mauled at home by San Diego and somebody had a good year. Sports doesn't work that way. Not in New York. If you're the Kansas City Royals, I'll let you get away with it. If you're the Oakland A's, all right, we'll give you a break. Not if you're the New York Mets with a $273 million payroll.
All right, handicap the playoffs here. What should we be keeping an eye on? The favorites and then maybe a sleeper.
The sleeper is Seattle. I think Seattle, Danny, is very dangerous. They were 29-39. Yeah. They remind me a little bit of the Nationals 3 years ago, who were 19-31 and won it all. They've never won. They finally make the playoffs after 19 years. Great series against Toronto, down 8-1. They can pitch. They got a good bullpen. They know Houston. I'd be very worried about Seattle. They'd be my dark horse. Logic would tell you Astros and Braves. I think the Braves are the best team. I don't think the Braves have a weakness. I heard you with the Harold Reynolds thing. Dodger pitching worries me. They don't have a closer. Braves are very comfortable playing them. That would be chalk. Braves, Dodgers, and then Houston coming out of the American League, best record. They kill the Yankees. But I got a funny feeling Seattle's going to do something. And I'll take Atlanta to come out of the NL. So I'll go Atlanta, Seattle. I know that's a wacky pick. What the hell?
Wow.
I'll go Atlanta, Seattle right now.
Are we past hating the Astros now?
That's a good question. I think people like Dusty. I think people respect Verlander. So I think that, he came back out of Tommy John. He should win a Cy Young. Who doesn't like Dusty Baker? So I do think there's a little bit of that where we are past it. It has been a while. They've been to 2 World Series since they cheated in 17. So yes, they won 106 games. They won 106 games. I mean, everybody's screaming about the Dodgers.
Quietly.
They won 100. They won 106 ball games.
Yeah, quietly.
That's a hell of a. They won 7 more games than the Yankees did. And I tell you right now, anybody tells you differently, Cole should not be pitching game 1 tonight because the best Yankee pitcher is Cortez. It's not Cole, but they gave him $34 million. They paid him $330. They got to pitch him in game 1. They really shouldn't be doing that. I would love to take the Guardians, Danny, but they can't hit. So I'll go Yankees in 4. I'll go Seattle in 5. I'll take the Braves in 4, and I think the Dodgers will sweep. Well, then I'll take Atlanta and Seattle in the World Series.
Aaron Judge's future, how much do you think it's attached to how far the Yankees go in the postseason?
I don't, none. I think the Yankees will, and I guess you can make the argument that the Yankees win the World Series. They don't feel as the need, but I would be really surprised if he doesn't stay here. And if you're Judge, Danny, why would you leave? The Yankees give you a chance to win every year. He goes to the Giants. The Giants are beating their heads against the wall with the Dodgers. And the Giants don't win. They win 1, then they stink, and they win. If Judge wants to be in the pennant race every year, this is the best place to be. The Dodgers aren't going to sign him. The Astros aren't going to sign him. He's not going to go to the Red Sox. He's not going to the Mets. So it's Giants or Cubs. Why would you go to the Giants? I don't understand it. And the Giants will give him a fortune. But if he wants to win every year, you stay put. I don't know if he'll get every nickel from the Yankees, but I'd be surprised at the end of the day if he doesn't stay there.
I'll leave you with this. I'll give you Albert Pujols' career or Ken Griffey Jr.'s career.
That's a good question. Pujols made a mistake going to the Angels. Griffey should never have wanted to be traded to Cincinnati. But 700 home runs is 700 home runs. A great finish. He won some championships. Griffey didn't. Pujols.
Griffey is sort of like Iverson. I think he was cool to younger kids.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
And Iverson didn't win. I mean, he got to an NBA Finals. But, Junior was always, there was something about him. Whereas Pujols, you just plugged in his numbers. It'd be 45 homers, 325 batting average, and 135 RBIs. He didn't vary too much. It was just like, he was like Hank Aaron. Hank, just like, Hank hit 47 this year. That was it. I think Pujols was so steadily great that we sort of don't. Those first 10 years, Chris.
Oh, he's as good as anybody.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, he might be. I mean, listen, you got Jimmy Fox, a Greenberg in his prime. This is going way, way back now. Pujols might be one of the greatest. He's probably one of the top 3, 4 greatest right-hand hitters of all time. I mean, think about it. I mean, the guy, and then he finishes up his career tremendously with the second half for St. Louis. He won the 2 titles. Yeah. He had a great finish with the Swan Song. He's got 3 home runs. He should never have gone to the Angels. That was a disaster. But I would say Pujols you're right. Griffey's great moment, Danny, is almost the idea that he scored the game-winning run on the Edgar Martinez double when he was rounding the bases in the against the Yankees. Yeah. And that was in a first-round playoff series. He never played in a World Series game. So I would say Pujols, big picture, better career than Griffey. And remember, they were an out away against Texas in that World Series in 11, and he got up there in that 9th inning, and he laced a double in the left center field. Everybody remembers Berkman. Everybody remembers Freeze. Pujols got a huge hit in that 9th inning against Texas, which helped them win a championship in Game 6. Let's not forget that, too. Guy's an incredible player. Let's be honest. Incredible player.
Great to talk to you as always, Chris.
You're the best, Andy.
Thank you, buddy.
You know that.
Thank you, man. Hall of Famer, Chris Mad Dog Russo, Sirius XM, also MLB. And Mad Dog, he's on with Stephen A. Smith on Wednesdays there on the Mothership, First Take. But Mad Dog Radio.